Once there's a horse called Orfevre by Mhybe. Or drop a like and wait, turn up the volume for better experience. Wait, what's this quiz thing? What are YouTube quizzes? This is the first time I've ever seen this. I got distracted.
One horse to remember for the rest of your life. Which one would it be?
This is unbelievable! Zenyatta! All comers, all grounds.
Ooh,
all
English.
Franco won the champion stakes. A triple crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
Everyone would give a different answer, but those unforgettable names usually fall into two kinds. The first are the obvious champion. Their greatness feels inevitable, power is their nature, and victory is simply what they do. Half measures never suit them. Only overwhelming dominance can ignite that kind of feverish admiration. Then there's another kind of great horse. They were not strong. No, they were strong, but they do not always tower over their generation. They could be doubted, sometimes underestimated, and because of that, when they win a race people think it is impossible. That shock eclipses the race itself. Those moments bring true emotion, excitement, and hope. And Orfevre is both of them combined. To some, he was the greatest of heroes. To others, he was...
Well, we're right back into this one. It's funny because maybe use the clip of Stay Gold. Of course, you got to use it for a favor, right? Got to show that it carries in the bloodline.
He was... That's who he was.
The strongest horse.
Orfevre,
You know, maybe he just had to smell it so that way he could inherit his father's strength, and now he has the power.
Of greatness. But we're now in 2010. Under the care of his trainer, he awakened a fierce competitive spirit. Unfortunately, not against other horses. He was way more interested in making life miserable for people around him. So question, in the race where he threw...
I would have been terrified if a horse stood up and kind of like postured at me. I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Please don't murder me.
his jockey off. Did he win or lose? The answer is, he won. Because his real opponent wasn't the horses on the track, it was his jockey on his back. That was Orfevre.
Ikeza, the Gold family victim, poor guy for his journey, now his brother. You know, that's just their way of showing love.
A horse, once considered unremarkable in every way except for his ability to get into trouble, and eventually became the strongest horse. But right now, we can only watch him going far, far away from his destiny.
Once there's a horse called Orfevre, and then he launched his jockey off.
Previously, after the success of Dream Journey, Oriental R also began attracting attention. 2007, she was scheduled to be bred with Deep Impact. However, the mating failed 3 times because of the unique...
That poor cat. Look at him, he's just there trying to live his life, and this other cat's just slapping him in the face. Aww. She really didn't like him? Well, I guess that's what this cat gif is supposed to represent, but still, this poor little guy, he's just there taking the smacks too.
breeding cycle in horse racing. If a mare failed to conceive by mid-year, she had to remain empty until the next season. This is to prevent foals from being born too late that they actually have physical disadvantage. To avoid losing an entire year, the farm decided to send Oriental R back to Stay Gold. And just as usual, one shot pregnant. But because it took 4 times for the pregnancy, the foal would be born much later. Not only that, in order to catch up the birth window, he was delivered by cesarean section, making him much weaker than other horses. His father was also changed from Deep Impact to Stay Gold. As a result, this tiny chestnut was not really favored. Compared to his brother, this foal seemed to inherit more from his mother. Of course, because his brother was Dream Journey, expectations still exist. But to be honest, few believed he would become extraordinary.
And how
Every
wrong
horse
they
needs a
were.
name. So this chestnut inherited a name that took parts of both his parents, Oriental R combined with Stay Gold. Orfevre it is, the word goldsmith in French. Now, I won't hide the fact that I'm bad at French, so sometimes I'm just gonna call him Orfevre. It's not that I have anything against French, it's just...
I do. Jokes, jokes.
I also like curry croissant.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que cette merde? Qu'est-ce que c'est que cette merde? Pourquoi toute cette question? C'est ma recette spéciale de croissant.
Croissants and curry? Sounds delicious. I'd eat it.
Eh vas-y, les Japonais, je vais leur déclarer la guerre.
I'm doing... Well, yeah, I can't be too mad at the French.
Many people know all of
Other Europeans can make fun of the French, but as an American, I'm not allowed. They were our bros and helped us get our independence from England. So you know what? I don't have the right to mock them. This American didn't forget.
that as the Golden Tyrant. Golden is easy to understand. Beside the name, whenever sunlight fell across his coat, to say he's a chestnut, he literally was plated in gold. Very beautiful. As for the tyrant part, someone would soon find that part out. The team began to take shape. Orfevre entered the same stable as his brother. All that remained was for the right jockey to step onto the stage.
Run, Ikazuo, run! Why is it poor Ikazuo's destiny to be bullied by the Gold Clan? That poor man.
At the time, Ikezuo heard this was Dream Journey's brother, so he volunteered for that role. Very bold decision, given how much he had suffered from Journey, and Orfevre did
That kick. What's funny too is after he kicked him, he instantly looks at the camera like, hey, you guys see that? He goes, bam, kicks him, and then looks right at the camera.
Orfevre did not
Yeah, you guys see that? That was good, huh?
disappoint us from the very beginning. At the time, people were curious about this Dream Journey's brother, and after it began, like Journey, this horse was unsurprisingly small. Every time the other made a stride, he needed to make 1.5 to catch up. That said, he was very fast. When he accelerated, it looked at someone flip on a speed boost. He opened a commanding leap at the final straight, so Ikezuo raised the whip to urge him, and that single strike completely launched Orfevre into an even faster speed that made the younger audience go, wow,
Yeah.
why is he not running straight? And then the older fans said, first time, huh? Of course, the real highlight did not begin yet. Despite winning the debut, all of
That was impressive, that super speed just after the one bit of spurt there. But yes, as soon as he started spurting fast, he started drifting to the left. What can we say? It's in his blood.
Orfevre's behavior was something else, throwing a tantrum in the paddock, drifting across the track in the race, and after crossing the line, he threw Ikezuo off his back, stepped onto him that left a scar remain to this day.
Oh,
This
geez, I didn't know it scarred him.
series of incidents forced the post-race photo to be cancelled. The tyrant appeared, even with the family tradition.
That's my proud son. I don't know why, but that picture of Stegold walking just looks so smug.
Just the first race, he became a problem child. And so this problematic horse and his poor jockey, their destiny was forever intertwined from the very beginning. As Ikezuo once said, whatever doesn't kill me only makes me stranger. Surely, after such hardship, this horse would begin to win, or at least would not do it again, right? However, Orfevre was in a painful losing streak afterward. He is too childish. At this rate, it would be hard for him to win anything.
Yeah, he just had to mature a little bit, that's all.
Thanks to his golden heritage, this kind of result was expected. But if you really dig deep into the reasoning, all racehorses born in the Northern Hemisphere share an official birthday of January the 1st. Orfevre, who was born in May, was nearly half a year younger than others. Not
Oh, so he actually was more immature. I was kind of joking, but that turns out it was actually kind of true.
only was he noticeably smaller than his peers, but also mentally, he wasn't ready to compete. In one of the races, he was even humored by the announcer.
さあオルフェーブルがうまくスタートできるんでありましょうか。あ、今日はうまく
Will
出
he
ました。
leave the
If you
gate?
had told anyone back
Properly.
then that this horse would one day become a triple crown and accomplish greatness, everyone probably would have laughed away. And this is where I have so much respect for the jockey Ikezuo. If you have watched the Journey video, you probably know this is a jockey with character. I wouldn't call
I mean, you have to have character if you're going to be riding Gold Clan members and all the other horses that gave him such trouble. Brave man.
him a top jockey. However, anyone in this role would think of a risk and return. It would have been completely reasonable for Ikezuo to say, sorry, I'm not riding this horse, or for the trainer to simply replace him with another jockey. Although Ikezuo was approaching the prime of his career, he still was not a top tier jockey. Yet trainer Ike suggests, just as a horse can learn from a jockey, A jockey can also learn from a horse. What they wanted was for the two of them to discover each other and teach each other who they really were. A horse.
You know what's even funnier about that kick too is that it was just a kick of annoyance. He didn't put any power or anything like that. It wasn't meant to hurt. He literally just did it to mess with him. It's like, hey, whack, haha, which makes it even funnier.
A man and a victim. This was how everything began. And not long after, 2011, in Japan, something enormous took place.
Once there's a horse
March
called
11.
Orfevre, he became the spiritual idol of a nation.
The darkest Friday for Japan, the largest recorded natural disaster struck. A massive earthquake
this was in
tore
2011,
through the earth,
right?
followed by a catastrophic tsunami and a nuclear crisis.
I remember
Together,
hearing that
they
on the
formed one of
news
the most
at the time.
devastating disaster in modern age. Entire northeast of the nation collapsed. Cities vanished underwater. Homes and lives were swept away in
Jeez,
minutes.
that's
The Japanese
terrifying.
Tenno, who had ascended the throne in 1989, for the first time in history, decided to address the nation on television, urging the people to endure and rebuild. In the disaster zone, the view was unbearable. Collapsed building, flooded street, endless debris. Families who had lost everything wandered through the ruins, searching for answers. Televisions across the country continue updating death tolls. And in one corner of the evacuation shelter, a small television was still on, broadcasting horse racing. When the nation needed a hero, many of them stepped onto the stage. And days later, people saw a flash. A horse ran freely upon the track. In a single burst, he ended his long losing streak. As he began to slow down,
You know what's even crazier too is just how that all centered to one point. I know not many people believe in like fate and destiny and stuff like that, but it is just weird how that happened, how it all just aligns like that. How he was on a losing streak, how Japan just went through that horrible tragedy, and then for people to look at the race as just some form of comfort, and for Orfevre to break that losing streak and to become that beacon of hope. Just really, really inspiring.
sunlight pours down upon him, casting a golden glow across his body, divinely gorgeous. At that moment, the entire nation didn't know what this tiny chestnut would come to mean in a year filled with tragedy.
First crown, just like his father winning only his final race. Yes, exactly.
The first leg of the Triple Crown, Satsuki-sho. Because of the earthquake, the race had to be moved from Nakayama to Tokyo Racecourse. This generation is the first gem of Deep Impact and Heart's Cry offspring. On top of that, King Kame and Stay Gold was also firing up with their children. With all of these champion sire active, 2011 became an extremely rare two Hall of Fame generation. So arriving at the Classic, Orfevre was far from the favorite. His brother Dream Journey had never performed well in Tokyo. On top of that, the Stay Gold line was also famous for late maturity, making them inactive during the Classic season. It's interesting to be noted, although the Classic are meant for the 3-year-old, Orfevre was born in May, meaning he was technically still a 2-year-old.
Oh, he
Everything
snuck in.
suggested defeat for Orfevre, but by this point, he no longer feared anyone. The audience saw a tiny chestnut break out of the field, overcame every disadvantage and won the race 3 laps clear, a dominant
hugely.
victory. After the race, Ikechoi said he had never felt the final straight at Tokyo was so short. Next came the most important race of
Second
the
crown.
Triple Crown series, the Japan Derby. This time, Orfevre entered as the favorite, but on race day, a typhoon swept across Japan, making the track into one of the softest surfaces in Derby history. Part of the course quite literally was down to dirt, and what followed would become another iconic race for Orfevre.
としました中山ナイトいいスタートサダムパテックもスタートを決めていますさあまずはサダムパテック
Let's
オールアズワン
go, Orfevre.
ノーザンリバーとニコラピンナイクか
As usual, he settled near the back, but when the race turned for home, he was in a world of pain. Not only was he heavily marked by other rivals, but also at the final straight, he was completely boxed in the front, outside, and inside. When he tried to force an opening, he was then bumped hard.
Ooh, so they blocked him and prevented him from moving forward and were squeezing in tighter so he couldn't break through. The dirty tricks.
Nearly causing the jockey to fall off, but Orfevre refused to back down. After not one, but several devastating checks, he still found a small opening to break out of the pack. At the same time, another horse began his charge. Wing Variation, who had enjoyed a clean trip, suddenly accelerated. His jockey Ando understood Orfevre
Or Win Variation.
had a bad habit of relaxing too early before the finish, so he timed his move precisely for that moment. The final straight became completely a two-horse showdown. Even the third-place finisher was a future Japan Cup third champion. Wing Variation still was ahead of him by 7 lengths.
今日は大外に出していって2番手グループずらりと広がって直線に向かいました。
So that bump there.
この2番手集団のやや狭いところに
I'm surprised the other jockey didn't get in trouble for that bump. That was actually a pretty devastating bump.
オールアズワン、そして湘南パルフェ、湘南パルフェ、さらには7番のベルシャザール、中山ナイト、そして一気に来たウィンバリアション、ウィンバリアションですが、さあ内に潜り込んでオルフェーブルだ。オルフェーブル先頭、1馬身半のリード、オルフェーブルゴール。
For many horsemen, Derby is their lifelong dream. Most of them will spend their entire career and still never could win this race. But not only did Orfevre overcome the Derby under a nightmare scenario, he also turned every disadvantage into a dominant victory. The sectional time
Never
shows
doubt
that
the
only
king.
Orfevre and Wing Variation's final section was in the 34th. Every other horse was at least 2 seconds slower. How enormous that difference was. The legendary performance that made Deep Impact famous had a 1.5 second faster time than the second best closer, and that was already flying. A gap exceeding 2 seconds wasn't just dominance. There were almost only 2 horses on the field. This derby also was the highest rated derby. That mischievous troublemaker who had once been dismissed by people was now doing the impossible one after another, inspiring those who lost hope in life. And after summer, finishing another commanding victory over Wing Variation.
Poor Win Variation. I mean, I know the best is always going to win, and unfortunately for Win Variation, he raced in the same year as Orfevre, but so unlucky.
Iketoi invited fans to come witness at the final stage of the classic to a new Triple Crown winner.
Third crown.
The
Let's
Triple
get it.
Crown. A title forged not by a single moment of brilliance, but by the proof of absolute greatness. To win it, a horse must be strong anywhere, at any distance, against anyone. Before that, many have stood at the edge of that summit, but only 6 had succeeded. Sandlight, Shinzan, Mr. CB, Symboli Rudolph.
By the way, I did not notice that about Mr. CB's unique there. I barely caught that reference. I'm going to go back a sec. That is so well done.
For that, many
She's running in wet turf
any
up a hill.
distance against anyone. Before
And that was essentially how he won the Kick a Show. I never made that connection before. It's always fun to learn stuff like that.
that, many have stood at the edge of that summit, but only 6 had succeeded. Sandlight, Shinzan, Mr. CB, Symboli Rudolph, Narita Bryan, Deep Impact. Now, Orfevre stood at the edge of joining them. 2011 Kikasho. Orfevre was the overwhelming favorite. Wing Variation was the second, but the odds was by no means close. Everyone was marking Orfevre. I don't want to say it was a sure thing for him to win, but the team was just brimming with confidence. This is a Triple Crown horse. So instead of focusing on the result, let's
Look
talk
at that
about
little head
Orfevre's
bob.
winning
But
strategy.
yeah, I'm the stuff.
If you play
I
a
know it.
certain horse girl game, you might be familiar with the 4 common racing style: from, stalking, mid-pack surging, and end closing. Because after centuries of development, pacing strategy has been studied thoroughly. Different strategy has its own good, which makes even the smallest misjudgment able to change the outcome of the race. When the pace is fast, it tends to favor horses from the back, but when the pace is slow, it becomes much more difficult for the closer to win. Since the difference in top speed between
Interesting.
horses is usually minimal under slow tempo. While many people think of Orfevre as a closer, there was actually a 5th strategy: Makuri A strategy that ignores the pace entirely. It means launching an aggressive move as early as the third turn, swinging wide and accelerating way early. By the time the field reaches home, the horse is already at the front. Just the idea of that is difficult enough. Traditionally, a thoroughbred can usually sustain maximum speed for about 400 meters, but Makuli demands far more than just that. A horse must run a longer distance than everyone else, accelerate through a wider turn at greater speed, and initiate a move so early that it disrupted the rhythm of every other horses. In wrestling terms, that's like Alexander Karelin picking up his opponent. Unless the horse was overwhelmingly better than its rivals, you simply rarely
That's
see it.
crazy.
And Orfevre was
So it's essentially a risky, super aggressive move that if it pays off, not only does it mess up your opponents, but it gives you such a lead that you just win through sheer power. Damn.
definitely better than everyone else. By the final turn, he already charged to the front. The entire straight became a solitary run, the gap growing larger and larger. Even if Ikazuoi began easing early, the final time still came 0.1 second of the record. Just like the call from Okaya-san, the golden horse is flying down the track.
Yep. Huge win. Look at that. God, it's so impressive. Ooh, number 13 tried to close in, but nope.
But
Triple
just as the
crown.
crowd was in celebration, Orfevre immediately threw Ikazuoi off without hesitation. The audience did not realize what just happened.
That was just his way of celebrating, you know? He was like, okay, everyone is happy. They're celebrating because I won the Triple Crown. Well, here's my form of celebration. Bam, get off my back.
Continue cheering. Commentator Okayasu was saying, just like his debut race, I've never seen a Triple Crown like this before. But perhaps that's part of his cuteness. And from that moment on, the nickname Golden Tyrant began to spread.
And get off me.
Not long before, Orfevre had just been a horse trapped in a losing streak. But now, he had not only claimed the Triple Crown, every victory along the way was a one-horse performance. This mischievous yet powerful horse was about to ignite a new racing fever. Whether it was his ferocious racing style or his mischievous personality, he was a well-loved champion. Also,
At least this time he was prepared. You know, the funny thing is he was prepared. He was like, oh, I know this move.
a symbol of hope. The older fans were sending congrats to State Gold as well. After Mr. CB, not a single Triple Crown was born out of a Japanese sire. So for that troublemaker to give birth to a Triple Crown, it's like Rudolph telling a funny joke. Nearly impossible.
Oh, you angered Rudolph.
However, for a Triple Crown champion, there was still one final hill to climb. At the time, although Orfevre had defeated every rival, people considered him the obvious horse of the year. Some believed he would lose his next race, Arima Kinen. This prediction wasn't baseless. First, because of the earthquake, the Nakayama racecourse had not been part of his Triple Crown campaign. No one knew how well he would perform on this track that is more punishing for the closer. Second, up to that point, Orfevre had won entirely through raw physical superiority, but
Just
later
sheer
on
power.
refined tactic. And the biggest challenge was that. Even for the All-Star Grand Prix, which assembled the best horses to compete, the 2011 field was the most competitive field in Arima history. Legends such as Buena Vista, Rose Kingdom, Victory Pizza, Asian Flash, Tosen Jordan, and Rulership were all present. Genuinely everyone who
is
could have
quite the
come
lineup.
had come. Although Orfevre was the biggest favorite, it should surprise no one if any other horses won. With the greatest field, many believe no way Orfevre could dominate the race the way as usual.
No, Orfevre is the only Triple Crown with both Japanese bred trained sire and dam sire. Ah, more fun knowledge for me.
At very least, this field of world-class elite will push him to his very limit. But after the race, final result, total annihilation.
コーナーへと向かっていきます 1000m の通過タイムはなんと1分3秒8超スローペースに
Super slow pace.
When the field passed the 1,000 meter mark, as the crowd erupted in disbelief, everyone thought Orfevre was destined to lose. Sectional time around the turns were over 14 seconds, and if you read the lap time in Arima, you know this was death. Not once in the new century had the Arima been at such a crawling tempo. Not once had they come close to touch 14 seconds in the first two corners, and Orfevre was dead last. Even Ikezoe felt despair, trapped at the back of a field with elite rivals. Each and every one of them was confident in their finishing kick.
That is a rough position.
The most devastating moment was not an understatement, but when the crowd witnessed Orfevre once again launch an absurd acceleration that defied the conventional principle, once again using the
Witness
long
my
sprint to
victory.
crush the stamina of the entire field. At that moment, I finally understood how Paul Felder felt at UFC 267.
And there he goes. Man. Man.
First-time viewer might even think winning this way against these champions was something simple, but in the past, not once could someone ever do this to them. To some experts, this is even seen as the greatest performance in Arima history over his second one. After the era of deep impact, many believe Japan would never again produce a triple crown such greatness. In less than 6 years, another triple crown, different style, but same dominance was witnessed. After this race, everyone began to compare him to the greats of the past. They knew the triple crown is only the beginning for him.
ここにある者たちは
Man, that was so good to see. I can't explain it enough how much I love the Gold Clan.
すべて非凡なる己が力を世に示した。
The Artist,
その
1983.
走りは確かに
The
歴
Emperor,
史に刻まれるほどであ
1984.
ったのだろうな。だがそれ
The
は
Monster, 1994. The Hero, 2005.
王の走りがもたらす真の好機ゆえに示す王たるは何か
The True King.
古今東西あまねく傑物を踏み越えてみせる王とすなわち世である
I should not be simping this hard for the Gold Clan, but no one can stop me. I'm a simple man. I see Gold Clan. I simp.
Spring. When the earthquake struck, Nakayama Racecourse was shutting down. A tiny chestnut gave people a reason to believe. Autumn. The Golden Tyrant was crowned as a whole, igniting a nationwide excitement around the sport. Winter. Nakayama reopened. The absolute monarch returned to his loyal throne. It was an age of heroes. Whenever the nation needed a hero, someone would step forward to inspire them. The mantle of its champion found the way to Orfevre, and after the race ended, a bigger announcement sent fans into a greater frenzy. The
Arc
following
time.
year, all of it would fulfill Japan's long-standing dream to conquer the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe.
Once there's a horse called Orfevre, and he began to cook. What's with that face? I swear, Mhybe always looks for the most cursed photos of the Gold Clan. He did it to Journey, and now he did it to Orfevre, and he even did it to Festa as well, now that I think about it. Did he do it to Stay? Yes, he actually did do it to Stay. Every single time, he does the most cursed image for them. I mean, the silly faces are funny. Look at that. How could you not love that?
challenging the arc. Even the idea alone was electrifying. A Triple Crown champion, rising in the midst of a national tragedy, carrying a dream that Japan had pursued for decades. Just the thought of that set the community on fire. But not everyone was swept away by the excitement. Behind the scene, many analysts were asking a far more cautious question. Would this really end well? If Orfevre won, it would be great, but if he failed, what would happen to the reputation of Japanese racing?
Let me go ahead and pull up that picture because now I keep thinking about it. That's funny. Look at that. Let's enhance. Enhance. Oh, we weren't supposed to enhance into U journey. There we go.
And the horse himself would also sacrifice a great deal. He skipped the domestic races, all for the sake of one distant goal. If you're not familiar with this part of history, I actually have another video that explores it in detail. Those concerned
I think we've already seen that video.
That dream became. That land had truly been so far for so long. But after his first race of the season, people no longer ask if he could win.
Skulls, I saw the auto thumbnail. Oh, okay, that's pretty funny. The auto thumbnail was Orfevre's silly face. I'm alright with that.
They began asking when.
I remember this, where Orfevre decided to play with his food.
During the race, Orfevre surged to the very front, but as the pack approached the final turn, without warning, he suddenly lost momentum and stopped entirely. The rest of the field seized the opportunity immediately, raising the tempo and launching their moves. Within seconds, Orfevre had fallen far behind. At that moment, he had effectively given 15 or so lengths, forcing to run over 100 extra meters. People would surely think the race was over, but then he chose to wake up and devour the ground with terrifying speed. Had he not been forced at the worst part of the track, he might very well have won. Following the race, JRA placed Orfevre under what was a training re-examination. The outcome of this evaluation would determine whether he would compete again. So it became the first and probably the only time in history that a Triple Crown had been subjected to this examination. Today, this race is often remembered as a comedic moment in his career, but at the time, it shattered people's understanding of racing logic. This view
Essentially, Orfevre just felt like trolling. That's pretty much what I can only assume this is. He just wanted to let others get a taste of victory for a moment. Yeah, he kind of just played with his food for a bit. But thought he can front run. You know, he just wanted to give the others a fighting chance. I respect it.
Had the defending champion and 2 Tenno-sho winners, and Orfevre at his top was just doing things to other elites that confuses people. Fortunately, under enormous pressure, Orfevre passed the test. It's worth mentioning, the test was conducted on dirt, and Orfevre produced time so impressive that many thought he might excel on dirt. So with him being allowed back to the track.
Oh, is that why Orfevre, I think, has a C in dirt on JP? That's a fun fact that I wasn't aware of.
The team said, "Last time we embarrassed everyone, so in the Tenno-sho, I will repay you with victory." At the time, fans were like, "Man, I'm not gonna watch it. Did you not see his Kikasho in his previous race? In terms of raw ability, this horse might be the strongest in history." In fact, many were not just expecting Vic's horse might
Hey, you dropped this. Oh, is that where I left that? Oh, thank you. Just go ahead and shove it back in there. Go ahead. All right, there we go. My brain is now back in.
be the strongest in history. In fact, many were not just expecting victory, they were there to see if he could break Deep Impact's 2-mile world record. Life savings were betting on him, houses were betting on him. April 29th.
Oh, D is the dirt rating on JP. That's the homage to it. Okay.
2012. On that day, Orfevre would deliver a lesson that every gambler remember for life. 11th finish, the worst of his career. 14.9 billion immediately vanished into thin air. Before the famous 12 billion incident, there was the 14 billion incident. After the race, Orfevre team tried to determine what had gone wrong. In the end, their best guess was that Orfevre had been suffering from diarrhea, which drained his strength before the race. But some also thought it was simply that golden spirit back at it. If there are 4 words that describe Orfevre's career after the Triple Crown, they would be, "What are you doing?" And if you had 6 words, it would be, "What the hell are you doing?" Want to cure a gambling addiction? Just follow this bloodline. His next race, Arima Kinen, is one of the less talked about races in Orfevre's career, but I think it was honestly so cool. Originally, the team had no intention of running the Arima Kinen. Their plan was to prepare for the arc, but after the loss, some people were like, "We're all wrong, this horse isn't strong at all." So in order to defend the honor of a Triple Crown champion, they decided 4 days before the race that Orfevre would compete, when many people believe Orfevre was in his worst form, and under all disadvantage imaginable, he returned to the track and crushed the field once again. We lost previously, so we had to win it back next time, because that is what a Triple Crown champion does. A Triple Crown champion doesn't worry about excuses. A Triple Crown champion simply runs.
See that picture? I have that picture framed on metal, printed on metal in the gym, just to remind me of what a pussy I am.
Although
True.
Orfevre's 4-year-old was
I
either
need that.
throwing or on the way of throwing, this was honestly so cool.
Orfevre. Orfevre. Let's go. The Triple Crown King has returned.
And then came the legendary arc. Where to even begin?
Oh, the arc, man. That bump on the side rails will forever haunt me.
For this campaign, the team made a change to replace the jockey with Musume after Orfevre won his prep race. Although many teams were holding back for the main race, it was clear Orfevre was a horse able to win the arc. So seeing another superstar from Japan coming here, France Gallop was very pleasant and said, "Who is this horse?" At the time, the concept of international racing was still developing. Europe did not know very much about Japanese racing. They knew
How
about the
dare
Japan
they?
Cup, and that accounted for half of their understanding. The second half was simply they knew Japan wanted to win the arc. But for Europe, the arc was also a matter of pride. The way each team prepared for this race was completely different from others. And with the withdrawal from Snow Fairy and Tangerine, remaining 18 horses, 9 of them are G1 winner. If Europe wanted to stop Orfevre from winning,
Excuse me?
What is that?
Why are we being American?
they will either need a generational lock-in or for this horse to have a
You see this image on the left here? I know what it's supposed to mean, but that's not what I see every time I see this image on the left. I know it's supposed to be the guy sitting down and locking in to play the game, but it just looks like a man riding another man, right? I'm just gonna say it. That's what it looks like.
generational choke. And then, you can't even make this up. They got both of them. Barrier selection, gate 18, the gate of death at Longchamp. I honestly can't recall a single horse that has ever won the arc from that draw. Then there was the track condition, one of the softest in the 21st century. Terrible for the high-speed running style typical of Japanese horses. When the race began, all of us settled all the way at the rear. Understandable, but still very few horses capable of winning the arc from last to first. And yet, under all these
Man, I would have loved for Orfevre to win the
still had
arc.
hope. At the final straight, Orfevre began to unleash his incredible
Festa.
power, surging forward and past every single horse with
And
ease.
Gold Chip.
Victory was within reach, and then Europe began the lock-in. The long shot Sulemia suddenly produced the greatest run of her career. Her jockey, Olivier Petier, also delivered one of the finest rides of his life. And at the worst possible moment, that thing sitting on Orfevre's neck stopped working again. Just as victory was about to be secure, he began drifting inward. But this is still fine. He can run in as long as he...
The rail bump. Oh, it still hurts.
And they've got the video,
And then
guys,
turning
this
it
is not funny. Don't laugh at this video.
into
when I
a
start
music
playing it.
compilation hurts even more.
This is not.
No,
This is not funny.
no,
Don't look.
I'm not.
Don't look at what's happening.
I'm
to the lady
hiding.
Right. She called the.
I don't want to say Japan is unlucky at the arc, but boy, if you
Yep.
know people's reaction back then, fans were looking at the scene and looking at each other saying, is this r/that really happen right now? Are we living in a 2007 Tumblr post?
Oh, please
Everyone
not.
was tweeting on Twitter. People who never used Twitter was tweeting about it. The community absolutely exploded, which I can't blame them for. The things they were talking about are still talked about today. There are also the memes. The amount of memes. Orfevre
let's
does
see.
not take the arc because it
I
does
don't
not
respect
the
friends.
arc. It was chaos at its best form, but in truth, his action was somewhat expected by the fans. I mean, just look at what he did. Just look at what his family did. I don't know the total amount of money, but he's gotta set an all-time high for the largest throw in one calendar year, and it will be very hard to top. And if you think the throw ended there, don't worry, there's still the next race after the arc.
It is funny how they did make Orfevre so bratty in the game as well, just to kind of showcase, I guess, how bratty of a horse he actually was. I just love how they intertwined the characters with the actual horses, just so well done.
Trainer EK reflected, because Orfevre was too powerful, even running him on flat ground could hurt himself, so much of his training had been conducted on narrow uphill gallop. As a result, caused him unfamiliar in the inexperienced open home straight. Still, he promised, we will train him to run in straight. I promise, promise. And then the next race.
Wait, nope. Nope, he...
Back to the story. We arrive at the Japan Cup.
Still
Once
drifted.
Again, it became a legendary race. Just how many legendary moments do you need to leave Orfevre? And once again, it's one of the greatest field of the Japan Cup. 17 runners. Every single one was a stake winner. The early 2010s truly live up to be one of the most competitive period. Just looking at the names that appear in the Umamusume, Gentle Donna Orfevre rulership, Tosen Jordan, Asian Flash, Rose Kingdom phenomenal. A lineup feel almost too perfect to be real. In my
Yep.
opinion, only the 2014 JC might top this field in scale. What made the race even more special was how each of these greats showed their distinct personality on the track. There was rulership being rulership, Gentle Donut executing a race that was clever and brutally efficient. Every horse on the track gave everything to win. If there was only one regret, it was Orfevre had just returned and once again drew the outermost gate. The fourth time this year
Unfortunate.
in the most outside post. His luck really was no better than Buena Vista. It just felt like he was not entirely in shape. But this was also what made him terrifying. As mentioned before, Orfevre's signature pattern was the famous Makuri, like a video game character activating invincible mode. Once
got the
again,
Starman.
Orfevre began climbing up and up long before home.
黒い帽子3番のジャガーメイド、あとは7番の名将カンパクト続いて3、4コーナー中間大きな気がすでに過ぎまし
Look
た。
at that, man.
さあ
You could just see him flying forward.
大きく後続を引き離して
But sadly, we know what happens.
16頭、世界を相手の強豪を引き連れて今最後の直線コースに向かってまいりました。そしてオルフェーブルもそれを捉えるというポジション。
It is really impressive, though, how Orfevre has so many things stacked up against him,
in
but
the
still
final
performs.
stretch, Gentle Donna showed the spirit of a true champion. When Orfevre slid into her, if it was other
Bonk.
fillies, they would be
Bonk.
frightened. But she
Bonk.
didn't hesitate at all to push him aside. As Orfevre lost momentum, Gentle Donna seized the lead and managed to hold on to that narrow advantage until the
Yep.
finish line. It's one of the most
so
dramatic duels
close.
in JC.
Right there, you can see that bump slows him down. Not the first bump. The first bump kind of just, yeah, he kind of shrugged it off, but it's the second bump. This slowed him down. Like that one a little bit, but that one right there knocked him off course and slowed him down by quite a bit.
After the race, JRA reviewed the incident and ruled the result official. Without question, Gentle Donut's classic season reminded many fans of the brilliance of her father, and the story of that era did not end there.
I still don't know how I feel about that ruling, and the fact that we're still talking about it shows that it was highly contested. That's where the no stopping me skill is based? Oh.
Just 1 month after, Goldship delivered another unforgettable moment in the Arima Kinen from last to first. Very soon, others like Just the Way, Lord Kanaloa, Phenomenal, Kizuna, Epiphania, and so many others will rise to the scene.
Wait, why was there a dog? My brain took a second to digest that. Why is there a dog? I'm used to the little robot guy because he's used that before.
Kizuna, Epiphania, and so many others will rise to the scene. Together, they brought the sport back to the rise.
Once there's a horse called Orfevre, and this was his destiny.
The career of a horse is fleeting, and for Orfevre, the time had come. Yet unfortunately, most of his final year was filled with blank. After winning the Osaka High, there were rumors that the team would send him to Dubai, but not Shima Classic. There was the talk of the Dubai World Cup. It is unclear of this rumor and the plan, but it never happened. There was one goal, and one goal only for him. He was born for this. In the legend of King Arthur, when the nation was searching for redemption across the land, he appeared and gave people that hope. He was their king, their god. But the moment he drew that sword from the stone, he must become what's furthest away from a normal human, forever bound to his fate and his tragedy. And that was the same for Orfevre. Driven by his era, he could become a king, a champion, a legend, but never a normal horse. A naughty, free-spirited horse he was. This is the weight of the Triple Crown.
What does the saying go? Heavy is the crown that we must bear.
This was his destiny. From the moment he was
heavy is the head that wears the crown. There we go. That's the saying I was looking for.
crowned till the very end, he must offer everything to that destiny to claim Japan's holy grail. And in the end, he too will never finish that quest. After Osaka High, Orfevre was diagnosed with an injury. So much of his final season passed in silence. Yet his final year still left a profound imprint on many fans because it painted a more complete picture for the life of a legend. Watching a hero's origin story is exhilarating. Watching their rise to dominance is also thrilling. But rarely do we witness the final phase of a legend's career. Watch when everything they have learned begins to settle into clarity. And that was the feeling Orfevre's final year left behind. Let go and pass on to the future. Letting go of his past and leaving a path for those who would follow, so the future can use him to climb to a greater height.
You could say he was a real trailblazer.
Because the recovery came faster than expected, Orfevre's returned to France as planned, once again standing beneath the shadow of Longchamp. This time, there was a huge support from the Japanese fan. Not only did Orfevre breeze through his prep race with ease, another superstar, one of Deep Impact's finest sons, Kizuna was also coming in blazing hot. Even Orfevre's performance last year did not
like the
fully
picture of the
reflect
dog.
the brilliance he displayed in Japan. They still believe this year is the year they got the greatest chance. That unimaginable anticipation was understandable. Looking back now, a layoff on a foreign soil, stronger competition, more tactical targeting from last time. Such immense hype was almost unrealistic. At the main race, the track had once again turned into a swamp. Honestly, Japan just sent a bolt. At the time, even Europe respected Orfevre as a major contender. And if you've been watching the discussion for the arc in recent years, you know that's very rare for them to even consider Japanese runner a winning contender. But even then, many experts were leaning toward another horse. 2013, Europe was still living in the afterglow of Franco, and there was a horse.
Oh, I remember hearing about
described as
Franco.
in Franco mode, Trev. I won't say Orfevre had a smooth trip, but you simply had to acknowledge greatness. The horse in Franco mode, in her 3-year-old, Trev honored that very statement. Beneath that brilliance, Orfevre once again watched another horse deliver her performance of a lifetime. This was his fate. This was his tragedy. That year, wherever the king led, the hearts of the people followed. When he claimed the Triple Crown, he was stripped of every piece of what a normal horse was. That year, the rain fell over Paris, each drop heavy with expectation, the dream of an entire nation.
Japan really does just get unlucky with weather for the arc. That's what it feels like every time, at least. Arc always wet. It's a curse, I'm telling you. Someone needs to stop doing rain dance.
Weigh heavy on his shoulder. That year, beneath the grey skies of Longchamp, the king met his Camlin. For the moment he accepted that mission, it was destined to be his tragedy. But if Orfevre couldn't win the arc, then who could? In the years that followed, Japan continued to send their champions. Yet when it comes to betting, again and again they are betting on a foreign runner. But they will tell you, if Orfevre was still here, it would not be like this. A few days later, the announcement came. Orfevre would retire after the Arima Kinen. The 2013 Arima Kinen carried an atmosphere unlike others. It was his retirement race.
I don't know why the people
Naturally,
race
the
him, but
popularity was high.
I feel like
Anyone who reads a
Umamusume music
lifetime
should be
tell
played.
you, this will be an easy win, but reality was quite complicated at the time. Historically, horses came back directly from the arc rarely perform at their full strength, and this year had the reigning Arima champion Gold Ship, who was amazing at Nakayama. Orfevre also spent nearly a year away from racing in Japan. Even the team said he's probably only at 80%. His goal was simply to step into retirement safely. So with mixed reason, there was some indescribable tension going into this race. And under such tension, Ikezoe, who had been reading Orfevre far less frequently since the arc, received an unexpected letter.
Once there's a horse called Orfevre, his name reached heaven.
The letter was written by a 5-year-old boy who was terminally ill. In the letter, he wrote about how much he loved Orfevre, how he watched his race again and again. Because of the illness, the boy dreamed of the open world outside, the freedom of running, and he wanted to see Orfevre win one more time. When Ikezoe read the letter, who was a father himself, was deeply shaken. So he reached out to the boy's family and invited the boy to visit Orfevre, who had just returned from France. Later, Ikezoe recalled that day.
Sad
I wore
but
my
heartwarming.
racing uniform and rode Orfevre out to meet him. Orfevre has a habit of biting when people try to pet him, but when the little boy reached out his hand, as if he somehow understood something, he stood completely still, patiently allowing the boy to pet him again and again. Truly a tyrant with a soft heart. But reality is always so cruel. That day, Ikezoe made a promise to the boy. As the day of the race drew closer and closer, the darkness falls. The boy's condition still worsened. When Ikezoe heard the boy had passed away, with a crushing sense of hopelessness, he vowed to keep good on that promise. To win the Arima Kinen, a race that symbolized dream.
共に越えようグランプリ有馬記念スタートオルフェーブルのスタートはまずまずというところがすぐに後ろに下げました後ろから4頭目追っつけていくのはゴールドシップ後ろから2頭
Keeping
目
that promise, go now onto this race of dreams and glory. Everything I was, my dreams, my memories, I entrust them to you.
さあ前に行くのは結局ルルーシュかあるいは3番のカレンミロ最後方に相変わらずテイエムイナズマさあカレンミロティックそしてオルフェーブル動いたここで動いた3コーナーカーブ赤い帽子が少しずつ上がっていくそして
There he goes.
ゴールドシップを一気に抜き去っていったオルフェーブル
Promise is made and a promise kept.
あと400ラストラウンドどう飾るのかオルフェーブル先頭に立つ4コーナーで先
And
頭
not just by a small lead, let your victory echo all the way to heaven. You are the proof that I once lived.
さあウィンバリアションが懸命の追い岩手康成が追い上げてくるしかし差が開いたゴールドシップも追ってくるが3番手争い最後の急坂もなんてことはないこれだベニ
Burn it into your eyes, forge it into your memory. Behold, this is Orfevre. And in that race, Ikezoe and Orfevre went together one final time. Delivered the greatest performance in Arima Kinen. Until that moment, no one could believe this was from the final race of a horse. Just as no one had believed that a horse could rise when people needed hope the most. Set the sport ablaze and took people's dreams to a new height. Just as no one could have believed that the hero of this story was a horse once unremarkable in every way, except for his talent for launching his jockey off. Once there's a horse called Orfevre. His name was passed on to the future.
After retirement, Orfevre began a new chapter as a stallion. His children, just like their father, are special. A little too special, in fact, that there are simply too many unique stories among them. Many of them inherited
that's why we love
the
them.
family tradition, golden spirit, unpredictable, troublesome, but always lovable. If you want to explore their story yourself, they are great hidden gem to be found. Chances are, somewhere in the comment section, someone is already sharing, but beyond their free-spirited nature, if there is one word that truly defines his children, it
There
will
he
be
goes.
growth. Even if you fall one step behind, perseverance never grows in vain. Take Lucky Lilac for example. Competing in the same era as Amon I, was she really lucky or unlucky? One stood at the very top, only to be defeated again and again afterward.
Silver Sonic, yes. The absolute troll. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, oh no, he's hurt. But then he just gets up and he's like, oh hey, that was fun, right guys? What a troll.
Her career slipping into a long and painful slump, and in the end, she climbed all the way back to the summit. Her entire career became a story about never giving up. Then there was Marshall Rain, the first Japanese horse to win a foreign G1 on dirt that inspired the future. I still remember reading an article at the time saying, now that the distaff had been conquered, Japan's next target must surely be the Dubai World Cup and the Breeders' Cup Classic. Looking back today, both of those had now been achieved.
Yep.
And it is! Oh, it's desperately close!
And remarkably, the Dubai World Cup was claimed by another son of Orfevre. Back then, because of the success of Marshall Rain, many of Orfevre's progeny began transitioning to dirt. Among them was a horse named Ushba Tesoro, a horse no one paid any attention. By the age of 5, he had only 3 career wins before switching to dirt. But from obscurity to the top of the
That's
world,
crazy.
all it took was 6 months.
Here comes Ushba Tesoro with a rush on the far outside. Algiers
Look at that
advance.
spurt.
Ushba Tesoro gains in, goes by. Ushba Tesoro hits the front. Ushba Tesoro wins the Dubai World Cup.
So
for
good.
Japan.
Somewhere
So
online,
good.
either on YouTube or Nico Nico, I remember a fan who had been supporting Ushba when he was still just a modest horse. His reaction of him winning Dubai World Cup, that excitement was the kind of feeling only the people who lived through it can truly understand. But Ushba is also a charming horse that inherited the most iconic part from his family. This was what he looked like during career.
The patent Gold Clan spurt, it's always there, shining through when it needs to.
And this is what he looks like now after retirement.
He get chunky? Oh wait, no. He just living his best life.
Even if you begin one step behind the others, effort will always find its season to bloom. This It's their common theme, and what makes his children unique in their own ways. But their stories are for another time. Having said all of this, I hope I have managed to convey the charm of Orfevre and the emotion
you
he
have.
once brought to so many. The reason he was able to capture the Triple Crown in 2011 and became a symbol of hope was because of his overwhelming ability. But great horses will always appear as the time moved forward. What made him a name recognized even by people who don't follow racing in Japan is because the emotion behind this horse had already gone beyond the sport itself, capable of moving the hearts of every
He's adorable.
generation. They rise, they believe, they remember. Wherever the king leads, the hearts of the people will follow. Spread the name of the king and tell them.
Was Orfevre just stepping on me? Wait, she is stepping on me. Nice. Once there's a horse called Orfevre, but only once. That was good. I'm glad that I finally got the chance to watch it. Oh man. Amazing video by Mhybe as always. Absolutely amazing. I wonder, is Golshi gonna be next, or is he gonna maybe do Ojucho-san? I feel like he's probably gonna save Golshi for last, but we'll see. We also still need Phenomeno as well, but I guess we'll have to just wait and see.